Alright guys, and welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing incredibly well. Now, in today's video, we're going to be ranking the 2020-21 Premier League stadiums. It is around that time of the year. Well, it's actually not. Usually we'd be doing this video a month earlier, but of course everything that's going on at the moment, meaning that we're doing this in August. We've only just found out who the 20 teams in next season's Premier League will be and which grounds every team will be playing at after Fulham's win in the playoff final last night over Brentford. Last year I did the same video over on the Saints view, and it's fair to say it did pretty well. So if it could replicate that sort of attention, that'd be appreciated. But before we get into it, do make sure you've hit the subscribe button with your notifications turned on. Plenty of content coming up over the next couple of weeks as we build up to the new season. Follow me on my socials as well. Right, let's get into the video. Now, of course, with all of these, it's my opinion. You can say what you like in the comments. I probably won't read them. I might even turn off comments, to be honest, for this one, because of course people get a bit salty when I put their team a bit lower. But it's my opinion. There's going to be a lot of waffle in here. I think it's a pretty fair account. I've done some decent research. I know these grounds. I've been to most of them. So I'd like to say that I've got a decent judgment. But to start off with, at 20th at the bottom is Turf Moor, home of Burnley. Now, it's actually the smallest stadium in the Premier League after Bournemouth got relegated, and it's far from everywhere. It's in the middle of nowhere. It seems that every time you go up there, it's raining, awful conditions. It's on its last life. Like, it genuinely looks like it could fall down any day now. Tin roof as well. I like old grounds, but this one is just a bit too much for me. It's never an enjoyable experience going up there. Always cold, always wet. They can make a decent enough atmosphere with the tin roof, but it's just not for me. The 19th place is the London Stadium, home of West Ham. It's a bigger stadium. It's one of the biggest in the league, but it's just not a fun experience as well. I mean, as a Saints fan, yeah, to be honest, I haven't had a good experience there. We tend to lose, but if you just look at the stadium itself, it doesn't feel like a football ground. If you've gone there, you'll know. It's got its running track still there. Obviously it's not a running track, but you can see where it's been. Like, I think it's like tarmacked or something, so there's such a big distance, and then you got that big tarpaulin in the away end to separate the fans. It's not a fun experience. Like I said, the atmosphere is okay, you know, when they're doing bubbles at the start, but if West Ham are playing poorly, it just feels like a really toxic place to be. Now, on 18th place I've put the Hawthorns, which is home of West Brom, newly promoted West Brom. It's a ground we know quite well because over the last 10 years, West Brom have been in the Premier League for the majority of those seasons. But it's just bog standard. It's an old ground that kind of just looks similar to most grounds, to be honest. Like, there's no sort of feature that stand out for me. It's one of the smaller grounds as well. It's about 26.5 thousand fans in there. There's nothing that stands out. It just seems like a pretty dull stadium. Now, this one might be a bit controversial. In 17th place I've put Selhurst Park, home of Crystal Palace. I've been there before. We won, you know, it was a good away day, but if you go to the ground, again, it's a bit of an older ground. It's got character, don't get me wrong, and like I said earlier, I do like the older grounds that have something about them, but it doesn't really seem like it's not really in your face. The atmosphere is great when it gets going, you know, if Palace doing well. It is one of the better atmospheres in the league, but you go there, the facilities are shocking, like the worst toilets I've ever seen in a stadium. It's got Sainsbury's built into that, whether you like that or not. Obviously, that's your choice. Personally, I think it's a bit odd. But in terms of an away fan's perspective, you're close to the pitch, don't get me wrong, but the view is just awful. Like, if you're on the far right side, you can't see the far end of the pitch on the left, and then vice versa if you're sat on the left side. If you're a bit further back, you've got pillars obstructing your view, and you've also got a roof. You can only see half the pitch. And for some people, they really like that. For me, I like old grounds. I like grounds that have something about them, but when I can't see the football pitch, it's not really somewhere I want to be going. Now, 16th, I've put Craven Cottage, home of Fulham, another newly promoted side. I have been to Craven Cottage. I went this season in the Cup with Saints. It's an alright ground. It's actually got something unique about it. It's got the cottage. I think that's quite cool. Also got pillars. So it's an older ground with a bit of character. If you go on the outside, you do feel like you're going to a stadium in Victorian times. It's still looking pretty old-fashioned. Also, it's on the Thames, so if it's a sunny day, you can really make a day of it. But when you're in there, you don't really feel anything special. The atmosphere is pretty flat. I mean, I think they still use clappers there, which tells you everything. Neutral section, not a fan of that at all. And it's a pretty bog standard ground on the inside. Nothing really special. On the outside, I think it looks quite cool, and its location is nice, but atmosphere is flat, and there's nothing really that stands out for me. Now, 15th place, I've put the King Power Stadium, home of Leicester. Now, again, this one might be a little bit controversial, But I just don't like these modern stadiums that look like a bowl. There's nothing about them. They're on like some industrial site. They make a great atmosphere. Like when the team's playing well, like the noise does bounce off and it gets loud. But you look at it on the outside, it just goes round. You look at it on the inside, you can't tell where the stands are. In terms of the King Power, I think they've got a good away end. Like I like away ends that are in line with the corner flag. If it's 32k, it's in an okay location as well in terms of the city centre, but it's just flat. There's not much about it. Then in 14th, I've put my team's stadium, St Mary's. So I'm proving that I'm not biased. Again, it's like a Red King Power. I've only put it high because it's my team. Relatively close to the pitch in these grounds, and like I said, on a good night, it makes a really good atmosphere. I do enjoy a night game at St Mary's when we're actually winning and not getting thumped. But don't get me wrong, St Mary's is properly in my heart. I do love going there, but that's because I love watching my team. If you look at the stadium itself, there's not much about it in my opinion, and maybe I'm being harsh, but it is how I feel personally. Now 13th place, I've put the Molineux, which is home to Wolves. Now this is an older ground that is a bit interesting. I think it's quite unique. If you look at the away end particularly, that's very, very different to anything that you see elsewhere. It's one long strip on the like a lower tier across the entire pitch, so it's actually quite clever. It makes it very hard to create an atmosphere because it's almost like the away fans are divided into two, and plus you've got home fans above, which is quite funny as well, especially when you're losing. They've also got safe standing set up there, which I think is a cool feature that I want more grounds to incorporate into. The atmosphere is electric at the very start when they do Hi-Ho Wolverhampton. I think it's a decent enough ground. In terms of unique features, like I said, there's not much that's there. It's a similar capacity to King Power and St Mary's, about 30 to 31, 32,000 fans. Not one that you'll put on your bucket list, but if you're an away fan and you're playing Wolves away, then it's a good ground to go to. Now in 12th place, I've put the Amex, which is home to Brighton. In my opinion, it's quite an underrated ground. If you go there, you'll see how modern it is, aesthetically pleasing it is. It's got 30k capacity, but if you go on the outside, it actually looks bigger than that. It looks like it could fit maybe 35 or even 40,000 fans. The facilities in there are great as well, as you'd expect with the modern stadium. The pie prices though, not so much. You have to take out a mortgage if you want to afford a pie at half time. It also gets noisy if Brighton are playing well. Overall, it's a pretty good experience, but my main criticism of the stadium is its location. It is so far from actual Brighton. Like, you have to get a 10-15 minute train to Fulmer from Brighton Central if you're getting the train. On the coach, it's pretty straightforward to be fair, but I would definitely recommend getting the train. Go down to Brighton Pier first and then get the train up. It's a hassle. It's worth it though. So if it was a bit closer to main Brighton, I'd probably rate it higher. But in terms of the actual ground itself, yeah, it's a good experience. And in 11th place, I've put Bramall Lane, which is home to Sheffield United. Definitely one of the best grounds in the league for atmosphere. Last season we saw that when fans were actually allowed in the stadiums. And in terms of the architecture of Bramall Lane, it's an older ground as well. It's got the pillars, which I think if you look at, they look very cool. And it's quite a nice feature, but I assume if you're sat behind them, it's not as fun. If it's 33,000 or so fans, so it's a good experience to go there. It's easily accessible from the city centre as well. It's a good away day. Now in 10th place, I've put Goodison Park, which is home to Everton. It's a bit similar to Bramall Lane in the sense that it's a bit older, but it fits another 10,000 fans or so. You look at it again, poles, it's got that feature. Terraces as well, like you look at the terraces and I don't know what the stand's called, but the one behind the dugout, and you can tell how old it actually is as a stadium, and the move to the docks in a few years is actually probably about the right time now. The atmosphere tends to be decent as well. I think generally with these northern grounds, the atmosphere is better than down south, and it's definitely one to tick off before it gets knocked down in a couple of years. Now in 9th place, I've put Elland Road, home to Leeds, the final newly promoted side. I think this has been a ground that we've wanted in the Premier League for a long time. I've never been, so I don't even know, maybe it's overrated a little bit, but I think everyone's wanted Leeds back in this Premier League. Everyone's wanted Elland Road to be an away day as well. Best known for its atmosphere, of course. Those Leeds fans make a really good noise when it's their day. And of course, that's something we're going to miss out on, or some fans at least will miss out on at the start of the season when there are no fans, and even if it's half capacity, it's just not going to be the same. In terms of the architecture of the ground, again, it's quite similar to your older grounds. It's got that sort of main stand, and then outside it looks quite similar as well. So nothing special in terms of the architecture, but I think the atmosphere alone really puts it up high. It's a big stadium as well. It fits about 40,000. and it's definitely one that I hope to go to this season. Now, in 8th place, I've put Stamford Bridge, which is home to Chelsea. Love a good trip to Stamford Bridge, one of the closer grounds to me personally. You can tell it's been renovated to some extent over the years. It's got a bit more of a modern vibe to it than some of the older grounds. You look at the outside, I think the front's very cool where they've got the Chelsea sign and everything. I don't know what it is, there's just something about that architecture. In terms of the away end, I like the fact that it's 2 tiers. It doesn't help the atmosphere, granted, but you get the option of a view, which is something I like. I think giving the away fans that option is cool. It's also got like a hotel and some restaurants as well, which is kind of strange, but it's something unique, which I like. And you get a decent enough atmosphere when Chelsea are winning with over 40,000 fans. It's definitely one to do if you haven't done it already. Now, I may get laughed at for this one, but in 7th place, I've put the Etihad. Regardless of what you say about cliches with attendance, I still think it's a pretty cool stadium. Of course, I haven't put it up there for the atmosphere, but if you look at the outside, I think the spiral staircase is a cool feature. It's not the San Siro, but I like the thought process of the architect when he was designing the Etihad. And you look at these modern stadiums, you know, I put the King Power and St Mary so that low down, because they look exactly like each other, and you've got that sort of template now with some of these grounds being built. But with the Etihad, it's got something about it. It's unique. It's got 55,000 capacity anyway. Whether that's filled or not, we don't need to talk about. But if you just look at it, it's very aesthetically pleasing. I like there's kind of arch at the top. It's not too difficult to get to from Manchester City Centre either. I think it's a great away day. Not if you want to see your team win. You're not going to see your team win there, but if it's a ground that you want to tick off, definitely would recommend doing it. Now, in 6th place, I've put Villa Park, one of my favourite grounds in the league. Like I said earlier, I do love an old ground when it's got a bit of character to it. Now, if you look at the front of Villa Park, I think that sign at the front with the staircase, I just think that's mint. That just looks sick. I don't know what it is. It's iconic. I think it's behind the Holt End, isn't it? And if we talk about the Holt End, one of the best known stands in the country, you get a great atmosphere there as well, with about 42,000 fans, something like that, I think. Now, it is a slight pain to get to from Birmingham City Centre. Yeah, like with Brighton, you've got to get a train to, is it Whitton? Something like that. I can't remember what it's called. But we went there at Christmas time, great away day, and I definitely recommend it. Good location as well for the away end. Yeah, I really enjoy Villa Park. Now, 5th place, I'll put the Emirates, which is home of Arsenal, one of the best looking grounds in the league without a doubt. On the outside, I think the design with the ex-players is really cool. It is a bowl, but it's got something else about it. You know, you can tell it's a modern stadium. It's almost like an arena, but unlike with West Ham, you go there and you can tell that you're there for a football match. Little features around it, like you got I also like that it's near Highbury as well, so that in terms of Arsenal, it's still Arsenal's location. They haven't moved sort of 10 miles down the road or whatever. They're still in Arsenal, very close to where they used to play their home games. Definitely worth going. About 60,000 fans. Atmosphere wise, you're not going there for the atmosphere, but it's one of those grounds where you look at, and every time you look at it, in my opinion anyway, for me, when I go, my jaw drops because it's such an impressive spectacle. Now, in 4th, I've put St James's Park, which is home of Newcastle United, one of my favourite grounds again. Older ground, but it's absolutely massive. You go outside and your jaw just drops because it's so huge. And I also quite like that it's in the city centre. Like, you can tell that it's there. It's not difficult to get to at all if you're going to Newcastle. Now, I would have ranked it higher if it wasn't for that bloody away end. If you've been, you'll know the stairs are just something else. It's a rite of passage almost as a football fan. You should definitely go as an away fan and do that, but the view's just shocking. Not for me anyway. Some people like it, I don't know why. It's also got the Sports Direct logos all around it still. Unfortunately, no takeover for them this summer, so I think if they could remove the Sports Direct logos and change the away ends and put it a bit lower down, it would be probably top 3 for me. Now, going into my top 3, at 3rd place I've put Anfield, home of Liverpool. Now, when it gets going, the atmosphere is absolutely unreal. It's a bucket list ground. For a clash against a mid-table side, it's a bit more flat, to be honest. I mean, they do You Never Walk Alone, but you just don't feel it as much, in my opinion. Now, the Kop, obviously one of the most famous stands in football, and with the new main stand, it looks even better. It adds to the atmosphere. You get 54,000 fans in there now. On the outside, it's got character as well. It's one of those grounds where you just got to tick it off almost. Not necessarily because you care about what the result's going to be on the day if you're going as an away fan. It's just one that you kind of have to tick off. Now, 2nd place, I've put the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, of course, home to Tottenham, their new ground. And I've been lucky enough to go twice this season, and each time it's been a great experience. Not in terms of the football, Saints have lost both times, but it's just spectacular. You look at it on the outside and your jaw just drops, especially the first time I went. You know, you see all the pictures, you read all the articles, you hear everything from other fans who have been. but nothing can prepare you for just how incredible it is. Like I've said before, personally I prefer the older grounds, but this modern stadium has just something else about it. It's a completely unique experience to any other stadium in the league at the moment. You go into the concourse, I've never seen anything like it. It's so long, there's so many options for food, it's crazy. I think the atmosphere needs to pick up a little bit. When I've gone both times, the atmosphere's been a bit dead, but you look at that north stand, it's absolutely huge. So if they can get it going, then they'll make a great noise. I also like the fact that there's safe standing poles as well. That's something new that I hadn't really experienced in the Premier League before, and something I really enjoy. Now, first place, I don't think it will ever get pipped. My favourite ground in the league by a good bit still, and it's Old Trafford, home to Manchester United. By far the biggest stadium in the league with 75,000 fans. The atmosphere, I've been once and it wasn't great that day, but you just look at it, and again, it's one of those where your jaw just drops when you look up at it. It's just a spectacle. Again, it's one of those grounds that you got to tick off. Loads of history there. In terms of the architecture at the front, I like the Manchester United sign, the neon one with the statue at the front. You got to take a picture there. That's just iconic. You walk around as well, and there's just so much going on. It's got so much history, you can just feel it. It's like the same with Anfield. As an away fan though as well, the away end's in a good place. I like it when it's in the corner, as I said. And yeah, you've got to go and tick it off because it's just marvellous. Right then guys, that is it for the video. Of course, there's going to be a good bit of controversy in there. Now give me a break. I don't want to see too much hate in the comments, but do let me know in the comment section below your opinions on my choices and where you would have put certain stadiums. But if you have enjoyed it, leave it a like. If you haven't yet already, subscribe and have your notifications turned on. Follow me on my socials, and we'll see you very soon for another video.